Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 update by Heerak for July 11, 2020. It is Eve of the Lord's Day. Today is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, and Christians call Sunday Lord's Day. And so, so the reason that we call Sunday Lord's Day is because Jesus Christ resurrected on Sunday. So the Jewish Sabbath day, which was on Saturday, was moved by Christians to Sunday to commemorate the resurrection of Jesus, the first Sunday, um, the Resurrection Sunday. And that's why Christians celebrate the Christian Sabbath on Sunday instead of Saturday. And as you know, we were in the middle of a global crisis, COVID-19 crisis. We're only about 5 months in, so you gotta hunker down. It's gonna last forever, according to World Health Organization. And Center for Disease Control, they recognize that it can go forever as well. So we're only 5 months in. It generally takes 2 years to form a vaccine, so you shouldn't really expect a effectively working vaccine earlier than 2 years. Obviously, this COVID-19 is considered to be forever. And the reason why that is feasible is we have HIV virus, which was identified decades ago, might have existed before then. And we don't have a cure. We don't have a vaccine. We have a way to minimize symptoms, um, reduce the viral load, but there's no cure really. And hundreds of thousands die from HIV complications, including AIDS, every year. Um, so there's no vaccine for this virus, HIV virus. There's no vaccine or cure. Well, some say there is a cure, but there certainly isn't a vaccine for hepatitis C virus. And there are 100,000, more than 100,000 people every year dying from hepatitis C. My nursing clinical professor, Professor Steves, who did her bachelor's in nursing at Georgetown, master's in nursing at University of Pennsylvania Nursing School. She told our clinical group this week that hepatitis C virus is spreading like wildfire in America. And a lot of people are dying from that. And both hepatitis C virus and COVID-19 are transmitted through sex or by using like a needle, like you do heroin and you share a needle. It could also be transmitted by blood transfusion, although the chances of that is rare in America, but in other countries it may be higher, and it can happen in America still. Um, yeah, I mean, COVID-19 is a virus, but it's dangerous because you don't need to have sex to get it. You don't have to do drugs to get it. Uh, if you just talk to somebody, within 6 feet of each other, you can get it. That's why COVID-19 is so deadly and COVID-19 is so scary for many people, including doctors and nurses. And so, as you know, I am graduating with a master's from School of Nursing and Health Studies in the specialization that's called Clinical Nurse Leader. And it's a 2-year intensive full-time study. We started out with 34 people in the summer of 2018. 2 years later, in 2020, um, there's 25 of us who were pinned uh, and who had a virtual graduation ceremony. And our program is over in August, but as I've shared with you, because it's COVID-19 second peak that started in June, a couple weeks ago, it's spreading like wildfire. It's possible that some may not survive. Um, there are 19 of us, 25, who are in the hospital setting doing clinicals. 6 of us have opted out from physical clinicals, so we have virtual clinicals with Professor Steves. Um, and so we do everything online. Um, but the 19 students who are doing clinicals, they are doing clinicals in hospitals in Northern Virginia. And as you know, Virginia is in the second peak officially now. They had over 800 cases today in past 24 hours, and they had over 800 cases yesterday, so the previous day. So Virginia is definitely in the second peak, and we should be breaking. We're close to 1,000, as I predicted. We would, hit or be close to 1,000, break 1,000 this week or next week. So we'll definitely break it next week. And both North Carolina and South Carolina broke 2,000 today. So they're about 1,000 cases ahead of us. So when we were having under 500 cases, they had over 1,000. So they're about a week ahead of us, but week and a half ahead of us. But we're catching up. So by next week, we may be around at the same time with 2,000 cases, or we may be in the thousands. These things develop really fast because, like in Georgia and Arizona, they also had a few hundred cases, and then it started to go past 1,000 and past 2,000. And today, Georgia had over 4,000, and I think Arizona had something close to that, or something around there. So Arizona and Georgia are about a week ahead of North Carolina and South Carolina, maybe 2 weeks we can have. Florida, Texas, California all have broken 10,000. And today, Florida had over 11,000 cases. Texas had over 10,000 cases. California had over 8,000 cases. So they're about a week we can have, you know, uh, ahead of Georgia and um, Arizona. Utah has around 800 cases, which is unfortunate. Utah's breaking their record. So Utah is where Virginia is right now. So we're paralleling Utah, which is kind of strange, but like when we had like around 500, Utah had about 500. So we have over 800. Utah has over 800 today. So, around 800. So we're kind of paralleling Utah for some reason. I don't know why, but so I'm looking at the data. Obviously, I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. I'm compiling all the data from the vantage point of social scientific research, which is more like history or sociology, to understand patterns in society. And social scientific research kind of helps you to understand like the broader realities that are not just medicine or science, but that include like a more broad human experience. Obviously, science is a little bit more specialized in terms of, either biological, chemical, or physical world. So it helps us to understand specifics, but it's not very good at giving us a broad picture or the spectrum. And it's not very good at comparative purposes. So social scientific research is better for comparing um, populations, geographies, areas, you know. So often healthcare uses social scientific research to understand the broader implications. As you know, I'm a professionally trained historian from UCLA. I was part of a doctoral program at UCLA. Um, and so I have a lot of friends who are teaching in top university, including Ivy League, as historians. And yeah, and I also bring in like spiritual dimension, because as you know, I'm an expert of Jewish history, but also expert of New Testament theology and Old Testament theology, historical theology and systematic theology. So I'm trained in that. And I teach it at the master's level. And I taught it at the master's level in Seoul, South Korea. I've taught it at the master's level in Russia, the Christian Seminary in Moscow. I've taught it at a master's level in Philippines, at a Christian seminary in Cebu City in Philippines. I've taught it at the master's level in the United States, theology. And I've also taught it, and I continue to teach it more regularly in India, in Bangalore. So I bring, and theology is more humanities, philosophy, theology, these are humanistic fields. So I bring expertise from that and provide you insights into that. Um, and obviously, I'm graduating with my master's in clinical nurse leader. So obviously, that certifies me as a healthcare expert. I'm taking my national certification exam next week. And once I have the exam passed and I'm certified, I'm officially an expert, clinical nurse leader expert. So yeah, so basically, I've been trained for 2 years by the leading experts at Georgetown University. So, I am functioning as an expert, de facto expert, and I will be de jure expert once I pass my certification exam. And so, yeah, so I have many different fields of expertise that I bring to bear uh, for your benefit. And I'm an expert of education as well. I'm actually certified, licensed um, teacher in Virginia. I have a professional teacher's license in Virginia. If you look up my license, I go into Virginia Department of Education website. I'm licensed in many fields in Virginia, and I'm licensed in many more fields in District of Columbia. And so I have expertise from the field of education in every discipline: English, math, history, social studies, and sciences. Um, so I bring that perspective as well. Pedagogy, educational philosophy, education implications, so I bring that perspective as an expert in that field, certified licensed expert. Um, and I'm also licensed as an administrator in District of Columbia. So I could be a superintendent or principal or vice principal to manage whole systems. Um, that's so I can look at things from an administrator's perspective. And so I am the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. I bring a lot of experiences, expertise. I'm synthesizing the reality of COVID-19 in ways there is not a single individual that can come close to my level of holistic expertise or interdisciplinary expertise. There's not a single person in the world who comes close to me. I've studied at Harvard at the professional research level. I've studied at Brown. I've taught at Brown and at UCLA. I've studied and researched at UCLA. I've studied and researched at Heidelberg University in Germany, Freiburg University in Germany, Regensburg University in Germany, Cambridge University. I was there for 5 years. Hebrew University of Jerusalem for 3 years, more than 3 years. I worked at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Israel. So I have not only competence in specific fields, I have been trained professionally in schools of thought in different countries. Because different countries sometimes have different schools of thought, different approaches to asking research questions, and theoretical frameworks that they have created over the course of several decades. For example, at Cambridge, they have the Cambridge School. At Hebrew University of Jerusalem, they have the Jerusalem School. And at Heidelberg, they have the Heidelberg School. And each school is different in the way they approach a set of research questions, and they use the framework that they've developed in the context of their university setting over decades. And so I've been professionally trained in these different methodologies. That's what makes me far superior to, let's say, a typical professor at Harvard University or a typical professor at Yale, most of whom have been trained in one school of thought. And so they're not as competent as I am, and they know that. I'm saying it right now. Watching this, they agree with me. So that's what makes me so special, one of a kind in the world today. And obviously, every serious researcher recognizes this, because academic pedigree is important. And so, yeah, so I'm very special. But yeah, so you're very fortunate that I created this show, COVID-19 Update, to give you insights, because there's not a single person who comes to my level of intellectual ability in the world right now. So you're very blessed. My name is Heerak Kim. I'm also running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, which is Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. And this is in Northern Virginia for those of you who are watching from another country. Arlington County and City of Arlington, we border Washington, D.C. And City of Alexandria borders Washington, D.C. And so we're very close to the capital of the United States of America, which is Washington, D.C., obviously. And so when we're talking about World Population Day, obviously we understand that the population will be significantly reduced due to COVID-19. The question is how much reduced? And I would argue, based on the reality of pandemic, that it can be reduced from anywhere from about 50 million people to about 1 billion people. As you know, Spanish flu killed about over 50 million people in 2 years. And this was in 1918, when the world was less densely populated. I expect COVID-19 to kill far more than Spanish flu, meaning far more than 50 million. We're only 5 months in. And so obviously, we're only 5 months in. So, yeah, I mean, we should hit over 50 million in 2 years, I would argue. It's like anything, it crescendos, it starts slow and starts building. So right now we're in the first 5 months, it's like nothing. So, you need at least like a year before you see a sharp rise. And then once it starts hitting exponential growth, it goes from like 1 million to 50 million in like very short time. So you will see that, I'm sure all the health experts understand that as well and agree that it's an exponential growth. And that's how it was in Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. The first wave wasn't that, didn't really do much. Um, Second wave that killed most people. And then they only had two waves. And then over 50 million people died. The seasonal virus, so they had two flu seasons. First season wasn't too bad. Second season killed most of the people. Um, yeah, but it's this is not a flu virus. Um, yeah, but like any kind of plague, bubonic plague killed 1/3 of the world's population. So in today's terms, about 3 billion people, or two to 3 billion people, die if COVID-19 achieves bubonic plague uh, reality. And that's obviously not impossible. It can happen. Um, but right now I'm kind of putting the spectrum of death at about 50, over 50 million to about 1 billion. And I'm not really putting a timeline on it. I am saying that in 2 years we will have more than 50 million die, but COVID-19 is forever, so it may kill 1 billion people in 3 years. It could kill 1 billion people in 5 years. It could kill 1 billion people in 10 years. Um, it's my position that no vaccine that's going to be effective will be developed against COVID uh, ever. There will not be a vaccine. Just like HIV virus and hepatitis C virus, which don't have vaccines, and those viruses are not as complicated and complex as COVID-19. So there's no way you're gonna have a vaccine. Um, at least not intentionally. Like penicillin was discovered accidentally. Um, you know, um, so yeah. I mean, obviously, if God wants you to discover vaccine, you will. But the probability is very, very low. Like lower than you winning $1 billion to a lottery. So yeah. So I don't anticipate any vaccines to be developed. Um, I think money is better used if you try to manipulate environments to make it safer for people. Ventilating system, vac systems, superior masks. I think that's a better investment of money. Personally, myself. Obviously, you should still work on vaccine, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And I feel that's what the current government is doing, and I think that's a tragedy. Um, yeah, I think you should approach it holistically, not just as a solving a virus problem, but I mean, I think it's better to assume that this is forever and work on designs at the system level, meaning get architects together, civil engineers together, interior designers together, um, mechanical engineers together, electronic engineers together to design a next generation housing that would provide relative immunity to COVID, anticipating that it will not go away and that COVID-19 will evolve to be more lethal and become more of an airborne virus in its mutation. So you need to design houses that would safeguard you against that. It's kind of like creating earthquake-safe buildings with regulations to require buildings to be earthquake safe, like in San Francisco. That's what needs to happen with COVID-19, um, because science is supporting the reality that COVID-19 is not going to go away. So you have to go with that presumption based on scientific knowledge. So you have to start modifying your environment to help human beings survive. So modifying environment includes housing projects um, that that has to make the housing safe against COVID, anticipating it to go airborne, um, and transmission to be much more lethal. You know, so you gotta calculate all that. You have to use physicists, obviously, because you calculate trajectory of travel of the virus at the current weight, molecular weight, and at a lower molecular weight in case it mutates in that direction. Um, the reality that it can ride on a dust particle or uh, air particle or even oxygen particle. You have to calculate all this because if you're going to survive in the next 50 years, uh, COVID-19 will continue to mutate. If you do not adjust yourself to survive environmentally, then you're going to die. Um, because the environment that existed before 2020 is not conducive to human survival post 2020. So you have to restructure the environment to accommodate the virus. It's kind of like earthquakes. San Francisco has earthquakes, and at a certain point, they had to mandate every building become earthquake safe because we know what happened in early 1900s when earthquakes struck San Francisco, destroying many of the buildings, majority of the buildings. I'm sure builders did not want to earthquake safe buildings. I mean, it costs a lot of money, but they had to do it to survive. And we are facing that situation now. We have to expand into other realms of our environment to secure human species survival through environmental improvements. You have to think about that. It's because COVID-19 is not doing what all the scientists were predicting it would do. If you remember, in April, I predicted that this will continue into summer and then it's not going to decrease in virulence. I was right. Dr. Fauci, Dr. Gottlieb, Dr. Bergs, Dr. Hahn, Dr. Redfield, they all said it's going to be reduced in the summer, practically gone, and then it's going to come back in winter. They were wrong. So they're all wrong. I was the only one who was right. And so I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, so I'm not surprised I'm right. I mean, I expect to be right because of my expertise. And obviously, I think it's wise for President Trump and President Johnson, every leader of every country to listen to me and start modifying their environment to accommodate the new world. Because species do go extinct. You should not assume that human species cannot. The Bible does say, and I bring in my theological knowledge here, the book of Revelation says that 1/3 of the world population will be killed before Jesus Christ comes back. So one of the markers of the return of Jesus, or imminent return of Jesus, is that 1/3 of the world population has died. Jesus will not come back until 1/3 of the world's population dies. Although we don't know exactly when Jesus is coming back, the prophetic books, Revelations, clearly states 1/3 of the world's population will die or will be killed by God. It says in Revelations until before Jesus comes back. Book of Isaiah, a prophecy from Old Testament, also backs up this New Testament prophecy. Because as you know, from Handel's Messiah, Old Testament prophecy prophesies about the first coming of Jesus and also the second coming of Jesus. And so in Isaiah, Jeremiah, Micah, Old Testament prophecy, you'll find prophetic ideas and claims that have been fulfilled in the first coming, but some have not been fulfilled yet. So there is congruence that 1/3 of the world's population has to die before Jesus comes back. COVID-19 can be that um, agency. Uh, During the Cold War, most theologians, Baptist theologians, charismatic theologians, Presbyterian theologians, Catholic theologians assumed that the 1/3 population would be killed by nuclear war. Because nuclear war can kill 1/3 of the world's population. That did not come about. I mean, it can still come about, obviously, because China, Russia, United States all have nuclear warheads that can create an environment where 1/3 of the world population dies. So you cannot completely rule that out. It's possible that 1/3 of the world population will be killed through nuclear intentional warfare, World War III, or accidental warfare. You know, like nuclear bomb is accidentally fired from North Korea to Los Angeles, and then U.S. retaliates against North Korea and China fires its load to all of America, and then America fires the load to Russia. You know, you get my point. So 1/3 of the population can die, but it's also possible that 1/3 of the population can die from COVID-19 or a different pandemic in the future. Obviously, no one knows the hour of the day when Jesus will come back except God the Father. Um, but it could be a slow process or quick process. Revelations does not tell us the timeline. It could happen in a day when 1/3 of people, world's population die from a nuclear warhead strike. That could happen in a day, or it can happen through a virus, which can be, years. How many years do you need to kill 3 billion people through a virus? Obviously, it'd be easier to kill 3 billion people if you don't have buildings that are COVID-19 proofed. You know, we could get there in 5 to 10 years, maybe sooner, because there's an exponential growth, right? But if we counter effect COVID-19 exponential execution of the human race by environmentally proofing our housing situations, there's less chance that we will die. There is no proof that COVID-19 cannot travel through air conditioning ducts. And as far as we know, there is no proofing of air conditioning systems, that like especially centralized air conditioning units. So COVID-19 may travel through air conditioning systems in your condominiums in New York, Chicago. We will see in the flu season if that's going to be a factor, because centralized heating is also centralized. And obviously, at least at the present, COVID-19 does not seem to be infecting majority of the people through central air conditioning or central heating vents. But that is not to say that that cannot happen in December 2020. So I would argue that it's smarter to modify our environment to proof ourselves against viral transmission if we want to survive as a species. Obviously, because of the New Testament prophecy, our species will not go extinct. Jesus will probably come back after 1/3 of the world is killed, although Jesus may not, because 1/3 of the world was killed in bubonic plague, and Catholic theologians thought Jesus would come back, but Jesus did not. So, I mean, we don't know. Yeah, so, but anyhow, I don't think you should rule out 1/3 of the world population dying potentially from COVID-19. I think that is scientifically possible. And if we understand COVID-19 as operating in a similar fashion as HIV virus and hepatitis C virus, but much more infectious and much more lethal at a broad level, um, then you can see that one third of the population can die within 10 years if you do not modify the environment. So I recommend you design buildings to be COVID proof. Obviously, that's going to be hard. It may not be feasible in the next 3 years. So people will have to die for the next 3 years in large numbers. Um, if if it can transmit through heating system, centralized heating system, centralized air conditioning system, or any kind of circulation that goes on in buildings, and our current HVAC system doesn't allow us to block out COVID. So obviously we should redesign our buildings, but also we need to focus on modifying our HVAC and central heating systems to prevent any kind of circulation of COVID-19. And that's going to be highly expensive, but that's easier to do. Obviously, that doesn't still foolproof it because we do not have respirators when we're walking around the streets that are foolproof. Your cloth mask is only about 40% protective. A surgical mask, like the mask that the doctors wear, they're only about 70% protective, especially if you're moving around, sweating and talking to people at a close range. So, even 90 N95 mask, if you're sweating profusely and it's not airtight, you can still get infected at close range if you're talking to people or people are breathing on you. So we do need to develop a respirator that is more foolproof, that we can use on a regular basis because you kind of need that if you walk, walk around in a concentrated area, like urban areas like New York. Um, I anticipate, at least 1 million people dying in New York in the flu season this winter. Um, yeah, I don't think too many people in New York doubt that that could happen in the flu season because we don't have a vaccine, we don't have a cure. Our ventilator systems are not COVID proofed. Um, our masks are not 100% protective. So I don't think anybody doubts that could happen. Whether it happens or not, obviously time will tell. Um, yeah, I think that we need to go into the next phase of COVID-19, that is adaptation. I think after 5 months, thinking that we're going to go back to pre-2019 is irrational. And I'm thinking like Spock, you know, yeah. So, yeah, but I want to give you some solutions so you can survive. Obviously, I created this show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak, to save your life and life of your children. But there's high probability you and your children will die in the fall during the flu season. And I think you need to mentally prepare yourself for that. As I said before, you should expect at least one person in your family to die in the winter. Um, if no one dies, great, but I think you should mentally prepare yourself for that. Um, because flu season, we don't know what it's going to do. COVID-19 started in America like in March, April. It kind of missed our flu season, so we don't know. So all the death that we had basically are like not during flu season or till end of the flu season or after the flu season. So we don't know what's going to happen during the flu season. When we start flu season, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm predicting that we'll have 1 million people die per month during the flu season in America. And that, initially we'll have like 3 or 4 million people die this flu season. Next flu season, and it's going to increase. And then by end of second year, we'll have about 30 million or more dead. in America. That's my prediction right now. And I think I have science to back that up. And looking at the patterns, I think that is possible. Remember, you could die from a horrific suffering, or you could die from simple suffering. You know, it's not like you need to be suffering with cancer that has spread to all your body to die. You could die from a simple common cold. If your respiratory system gets compromised, yeah, you could have a simple cold. They could die from that. Every year, people die from common cold because their respiratory system gets compromised. So, yeah, some people die because they have a serious illness like cancer that spreads all over the body. But you could die also from a common cold that you get just because you can't breathe because your lung is infected. So, you know, even simple thing like a common cold can kill you if it infects your lung and there's no respirator, then you die. Yeah. So it's not one thing like you have to have like a very serious suffering to die. You can easily go um, from a simple condition to death. You know, I appreciate Billy. I mean, I appreciate all my core members. I want to congratulate all my core. CNL, we were pinned. Yay, CNL. Cohort 2020, Georgetown, Cohort 2020. Yeah. Um, I appreciate Billy. You know, he's a brilliant guy. He graduated from United States Naval Academy. And Grant is a brilliant guy too. You know, you know, he did public health for a bachelor's degree at University of North Carolina State University System, and they came over here for a master's in nursing. So he has a you know like public health perspective that most of us don't have because he did a bachelor's there for 4 years. So he's an expert in that area. You know, he's like a because he has a master's now in clinical nurse leader. You know, now he can apply his knowledge at the bachelor's level and upgrade it through his own research, like PICO questions and evidence-based research to an expertise level. So I think I am not too forward in saying that he can be an expert in public health, and he definitely is a clinical nurse leader expert. That means he'll get the degree certification. Um, so yeah, so I mean, you know, we have brilliant people. All of us are brilliant, all 25 of us. But Billy, you know, I appreciate him because he's in the U.S. Navy. He served for like 20 years as an officer. You know, he went to U.S. Naval Academy. And we had, you know, during our clinicals this week, we had a discussion about, or was it last week? Well, I think it was this week, Monday. We had a discussion about SEERS, uh, systemic inflammatory, uh, you response syndrome. And you can be diagnosed with that if you have a temperature that's high, and if your respiration is high, white blood cell is high. So in our case study, we had a scenario where we examined a patient who could have that condition. Um, and Billy made a very good point, and you know, like all of us, Billy, me, Grant, Sarah, um, Claire, and Megan. So 6 of us who have opted out from clinical. And Megan's now in New Jersey. Sarah is in Baltimore area. And Grant is in South Carolina. Billy is in this area. I'm in this area. Claire is in Falls Church. And so we have this virtual clinical together. So there was this one patient that we were studying, and we had to do a serious screening. Systemic inflammatory response syndrome. And Billy made a good point. if your body has infection, and if you don't deal with that infection within 30 minutes to an hour, you die. Yeah. I mean, like, he's a military guy. So he doesn't like mince words. He just like comes out and say it. Because like when you're in a war, he was in Somalia in a highly violent conflict zone. I'm sure, he had to kill a lot of people there in Somalia as an officer, or he commanded the foot soldiers to kill. Officers just generally command the people, foot soldiers to kill, right? But in a highly, it's like a terrorism, area. So he's a U.S. Navy, so he was there for 1 year. So he did his first year in the clinical nurse leader program, and then U.S. Navy called him to serve for 1 year. So he served and he came back. And so he's doing second year with us. So he's actually part of a Cohort 2019. And he made that comment. He's like, well, there's this one patient, if we don't do the seer screening right away and handle that infection within 30 minutes, the patient can die. So you understand what we're dealing with as nurses in the hospital. You can die in 30 minutes if you have a systemic infection and somehow that gets missed, or if there are like 10 COVID patients, and so we take our time getting to you and it takes more than an hour, you're dead. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have that infection and there are 10 patients and there's, each case could cause death, but you happen to have this serious condition, and we took 1 hour to get to you because we were short-staffed, or or there were conditions that needed attention, and then you're dead. Yeah. So, and that serious can happen with a common cold. You could come in with a common cold to a hospital, and then somehow you got infected, and then you develop SIRS. If nothing is done to combat that, within 30 minutes you're dead. Yeah, you're dead. You can die. And that's SIRS. So that's like an infection, inflammation. So that's one way you could die from COVID, but you could die that way from a common cold. You could die that way from a pneumonia. You could die that way from any condition really, because you come in with a condition and then your body is compromised, and you could get infected somewhere, and then you could die. If your infection is enter a serious stage within 30 minutes, if nothing's done, you're dead. Yeah. So. Yeah. So I always just remember what Billy said during the clinic was like, yeah, you die. If Sears is not taken care of, like if they're not taken care of 30 minutes, so you're like, yeah. So yeah, I don't think anybody doubts that 1 million people could die per month during the flu season, because Sears is only one way you can die. There's I could share with you how many other ways you could die. It's just that's all we discuss in nursing school, how many different ways people could die, and what we need to do to prevent that. So we understand how many people die, how quickly. 30 minutes is all it takes for you to die. Without an intervention, you'll die. Yeah, from SIRS. So that's one way you can die from COVID. Yeah, that's why when hospitals full, it's never a good thing, because if there's like overflowing patients, there's greater chance you'll die. Whereas if there are fewer patients in the hospital, you get more attention. So your condition will not be missed. Yeah, 30 minutes isn't that long, yeah. So so that's why I'm saying you should prepare to bury one of your family members during the flu season in 2020, because it only takes 30 minutes from the time that your body gets infected, and then it becomes a systemic infection, so you die. Yeah. So once your infection becomes systemic, you have 30 minutes and then you die. And it could happen really quickly. And it could happen like without people noticing. That's the scary part. That's why like serious patients are put into ICU at hospital because in ICU, every patient is watched like consistently, like continuously. Because 30 minutes you could die. If you have a condition that becomes infected, you die in 30 minutes. You gotta. It's not like, oh, this person has that condition. 30. You have to clock the time at 30 minutes. You have to do something to counter that, or that your patient's dead. So ICU room, the nurse is there trying to identify any condition that could develop. As soon as you develop the condition, the nurse has to do something to make sure you don't die in the 30-minute period. This is what happens. So seriously ill patients are sent to ICU because of that, because you could die within 30 minutes. But you could develop serious in the regular non-ICU bed as well. And you could be missed. Like people die. Um, yeah, like one of the clinical groups at George Washington Hospital in their first clinical in fall 2018, when we first started clinicals for fundamentals, their very first clinical day, somebody died in their unit, and they were tasked with cleaning the dead body. And they're like, that's the first time they set foot in a hospital to work with like patients in DC area. And the first thing they had to do is clean the dead body that just passed away. Yeah, they just generally give the new nurses like the worst jobs, you know, right? Because like who likes to clean dead bodies, right? So when they went to George Washington University Hospital, none of the nurses wanted to clean the dead bodies, so they gave the newcomers, the rookies, the job that nobody wanted. That's why I'm saying I expect at least 5 out of 25 of us to die by December, because every hospital you go to, the rookies will be sent to all the risky areas. It's like that with rookies anywhere, right? With the police or firemen, you send out the rookies for all the jobs you don't want to do. you know? Yeah, so I'm anticipating at least five to eight of us to die from clinical nurse leader Cohort 2020 by Christmas. Because it's coming, the flu season is coming, and it's going to be horrific. This is summer. You don't really have common cold or flu. And look at all the people getting COVID, and look at people dying. We have 704 people dead in the last 24 hours, and this is summertime. There's like no cold, no flu, and 704 people dying. Is that? Think about that. Think about when there's a flu, when there's cold, there's strep throat. You have like 7,000 to 14,000 people dying, maybe more per day. We have 50 states. I mean, you could have 10,000 people dying in every state during the flu season from COVID. 10,000 per day die. Because infection is going to be much more aggressive. If you send your children to school and you have a classroom of 20 students, all of them can get infected. When they go home, they could infect all of their family, right? So let's say a family of 4. So 20 kids. Well, let's say a family of 5. 20 kids. That's, what is that, 1,000 people? Or is it 100 people? Yeah. So let's say one classroom you have 100 people who's going to get infected, and all of them can die, from COVID during the flu season. Um, multiply that by, however many classes there are in the Arlington County Public School system. you know, I mean, wipe out a whole county. So that's why I think Montgomery County Public Schools is doing the smart thing. They have announced that they plan to go 100% online in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is where our University of Pennsylvania Alumni Association of Washington D.C. president lives, Todd. We have we used to have our monthly Pen Club of DC executive board meeting there. Now because of COVID, that's stopped. And he used to have like great Chinese food. He's not Chinese, he's a white guy, but he likes Chinese food. So yeah, people drink wine. I drive, so I don't drink. When I drive, so I never drank. But people who don't drive, take subway, they wine, and it's like nice social event. Executive board meeting. I miss those. But I like Todd. He's a good man. And his kids are smart. His daughter went to a freshman. I guess she's going to sophomore year now, but she went to Duke. And she was a classmate of Barack Obama's daughter. And the son is, I think he's graduating this year or next year. So I told him to go to Penn. Hopefully, he's going to go to Penn. So I talked to him about that. His wife is nice, yeah, wonderful family, very happy family. But yeah. Anyway, like Montgomery County, like Bethesda, that's in Montgomery County, like sort of right by DC. Yeah, and so NIH, National Institutes of Health, is in Montgomery County. So I think that's why they are with 100% online, because National Institute of Health is where all the scientists are, right? And they know how they know 1/3 of America can die from COVID. They understand that. They're scientists. Especially in flu season. I mean, you may not die if there were all the ICU rooms, but once ICU rooms run out, nurses run out, 100% of those infected can die. You need a hospital to live if you get serious. Yeah. So so if 1,000 people get COVID in Arlington, all 1,000 can die if there's no space in Virginia Hospital Center. Oh, did I tell you? I got contacted by Virginia Hospital Center. They want to interview me for a nursing job there. So I set up an interview. Well, they asked me for available times, so I gave them my available times, and so the interview is set up for next week. Yeah. So all you fans of mine in Arlington, if you get COVID in winter, you may see me taking care of you. Like if you get COVID like in September or October, during flu season, and you go to the emergency room and Virginia Hospital Center, if they hire me and if I work there, you may see me taking care of you, like in September, or even I'm predicting that 1 million people will die by end of August in America from COVID-19, the second peak. And we're going to get to a level where 10,000 people die per day during summer. Because look at the cases, right? So I don't think I'm being unreasonable to predict that. So, I start working in August if Virginia Hospital Center hires me. Then I can see you in August and save your life. Yeah, it's going to be bad in the summer, but it's going to be worse in the winter. I mean, it's going to be bad in the fall. It's going to be worse in the fall. If schools start back up, like in September, oh my gosh. Oh, it'd be horrible. But yeah, so Montgomery County, which is like where National Institute of Health is, and I think that's also where Food and Drug Administration is. And so obviously they don't want to die. They live like around there. So they don't want their kids to go to school because they don't want to die. Because their kids bring back COVID, they get it at home, they die. So these scientists don't want to die. So obviously they're going to push to make sure the none of the public schools open so they don't die. I mean, you have to get infected from a person, right? As long as you can avoid getting infected from a person, you're not going to die. So all these National Institutes of Health researchers in Bethesda and in Montgomery County, they're pushing to make sure there's no in-person classes. And and that's why Montgomery County Public Schools is not going to have any classes in person because these researchers know you can definitely die. Your chance of dying is higher than your chance of not dying if you open school. So that's why they're not opening it. And as you know, I'm recommending you email everyone, as many people as possible. You have time right now, right? Email your principal, email your child's teacher if you have to, email a superintendent, email every single member of the board, school board individually, email every member of the county board, uh, email Governor Northam saying close the school down for fall. I mean, you know, I mean, it's up to you, right? It's up to you whether you live or die, right? I mean, if Arlington County Public School opens and your child goes to school physically, chances are he's going to get COVID. He's going to bring that back home, and all of you are going to die. Your son, your daughter, you, your wife. Yeah, all your money is worth nothing when you die, especially if all of you die. You, your wife, your daughter, your son, all of you. Well, I guess you can leave your money to like your brother or sister, in Montgomery County, and none of them are dead because their kids didn't go to school. you know, I mean, as I said, species go extinct. There's a reason why species go extinct. You know, yeah, I mean, there's reason why certain animals go extinct in certain areas and not in other areas. Like you may not have the human species go extinct in Montgomery County, but we can have over 50% of the people in Arlington County die because their kids are going to school. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. If 50% of all people in Arlington die before general elections, November 3rd, 2020, I wouldn't be surprised because I know what virus does. And we are in flu season at that time. So if 50% are dead before the election on November 3rd, hopefully you sent in your mail-in ballot for me, voting for me before you die. But obviously I don't want you to die. That's why I created the show. And I've been encouraging you to email Governor Northam and all the county board members and school board members and your superintendent and principal and your teachers, as many people as possible, to close the school down so you don't die. Don't blame me because I'm trying to save your life. You gotta do something to save your life too. I mean, I can't do all the work. You gotta help me so I could help you. And you gotta help yourself too, right? I mean, geez, don't, I mean, once your child is infected, once your whole family is infected, in October, it's too late. I mean, you have like 90% of chance of dying. I'm not even gonna say 50-50. During the flu season, your chance of dying is like 90% when there's no hospital beds left. It's 100%. Yeah. So that's why I'm telling you now. This is the moment where you can change your life to protect the lives of every single one of your family members. And if you're too lazy to email Governor Northam, I mean, what can I say? What can I say? What can I say? You're too lazy to email Governor Northam when you have all that time in your hand. And we're talking about your life and death of your wife, your children. I mean, you should send a separate email from every member of your family, your son, your daughter, your wife, yourself, separately. You could make that a family like event. All of you sit down and send email for, like 30 minutes. Yeah, simultaneously. More emails, the better. Because, I mean, how do you think Montgomery County Public Schools is going 100% online? I mean, I'm sure all the researchers like sent email after email until they got their way. I mean, we're talking about your survival here, your death, living or dying. I mean, I know a lot of people in Arlington are wealthy, but what good is all your wealth if you die? It's game over for you, your wife, your children, and you want your kids to go to school? That doesn't make sense. This is a killer virus. It spreads. It's going to kill you. Yeah. Um, yeah, I say, I mean, as I recommended yesterday, President Trump should just leave it up to the governors. That way, when people die, and a lot of people are going to die, then he won't get the blame. Because if he gets blamed for millions of deaths, there's no chance he's going to win the election. I don't know which idiot gave President Trump the advice to take the responsibility on schools. What I would do if I were President Trump is I'll tell Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, to talk about education. And then as President Trump, I would not, why would you want to put a big target on your head? You can't backtrack if 1 million people are dead in October from COVID. You can't survive from that, ever. So why would you want to do that? I mean, there's no chance Vice President Pence will be president if 1 million people die by October. You can't backtrack from that if you took the responsibility. As I've told President Trump like 2 months ago, don't take responsibility. Just tell the states you're free to do what you want. Do whatever you want to do. But what you do, you're responsible for. All the governors must be responsible for what they do in their state. Don't take responsibility. This is an election year, President Trump. Don't be an idiot. Excuse my harsh language. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but obviously there's somebody who's trying to get you not elected. My guess is like Jared Kushner. I wouldn't trust them because there's a reason why you're not getting 100% of the Jewish support, or even 80%, or even 50% of the Jewish support. Maybe Jared Kushner wants you to lose. Do you think Jared Kushner cares more about you, President Trump, or the Jewish people? Maybe he wants you to lose and Joe Biden to win, and he's undermining you from inside. I wouldn't trust Jared Kushner. I wouldn't trust Ivanka Trump. She converted to Judaism. Why would you trust somebody who converted to another religion? I mean, obviously, I'm sure she's gung-ho about her new religion, which means she'll probably betray you in a second for her new religion. I wouldn't trust Ivanka or Jared as a matter of principle. I mean, geez. When people's loyalties are divided, you have to think hard and deep about who you can trust. Especially in an election year, you don't trust people just because they're your family. You know the greatest number of murders in America are done by family members? Yes. Ask any policeman. Oh yeah, there's defund police, so you may not be able to locate a policeman, but yeah, ask any policeman. Murders are usually committed by people who know you, like your son, your wife, your friend, your brother, your coworker. Yeah. It's rare to see a murder by a stranger. What does that tell you? Maybe you should not trust people who are close to you. Do you see what I'm saying? When your wife sleeps with someone and cheats on you, who does she do that with? Your brother, your best friend. Do you get my point? Your coworker. Do you see what I'm saying? The person President Trump should least trust is Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner because they have a greater allegiance than to President Trump. Obviously, when majority of Jews want President Trump to lose, let's say 90% or more, I would predict. And I'm not, don't call me an anti-Semite because I'm just like making an assessment. I could talk about Koreans supporting certain people, Black people supporting certain people, Hispanic people supporting certain people. This is an election year. We could talk about any race supporting which people. So, I mean, Jews are like hypersensitive. And they're like, anytime, you talk about Jews, they're like, oh, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. They're like neurotic. They have like mental illness. I mean, geez. I mean, all these Jews are like, they don't want you to talk about Jews, but they talk about black people. Black people support Biden. Black people does not support Trump. Watch the TV. They always talk about this, all these Jewish commentators on CNN. And they're like, oh, we can't talk about Jews? Why not? You talk about black people. Why can't black people talk about Jews? Double standard. Yeah. So so I have the right to talk about 100% of American population can talk about Jews and who they vote for. Because Jews talk about who blacks vote for. I mean, what makes them God? We could talk about you. You talk about us. So I'm going to talk about you. So currently, around 80-90% of the Jews in America hate Donald Trump. They want him to lose. Now, logically speaking, and I appeal to Eric Trump as well and Don Trump Jr. about this. Logically speaking, would you trust somebody who's affiliated or has fundamental loyalty to a people, 90% of whom want you to lose? I'm just saying, okay? The fact is, a majority of the Jews wanted President Trump impeached. No? Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. They worked toward his impeachment. They've supported his impeachment aggressively, vocally, in their workplace, in social media. People who are ethnically Jewish have aggressively wanted President Trump impeached, right? And even now, I would say at least 80%, maybe more than 90% of Jews in America aggressively hate Trump, President Trump, and want him to lose. Would you disagree with that, Eric? Eric Trump? Or Don Jr.? Don Jr. Trump? Or Don Trump Jr.? Would you disagree with that statement? Or Tiffany Trump? Would you disagree with that? You have a lot of Jewish friends from Georgetown Law School. You know how much these Jewish law students hate Trump, President Trump, your father? Am I lying here? No, I'm just making a assessment of society in an election year. And that doesn't make that doesn't make me anti-Semite. That doesn't make anybody who's talking about Jews supporting a particular candidate as an ethnic group. You can talk about that. You're not an anti-Semite because you talk about that. You can talk about black vote, Hispanic vote, white vote, Korean vote, Jewish vote. There's nothing anti-Semitic about it. Jews are like hypersensitive. That's the problem. So I would say if President Trump wants to win this election, I would distance myself from Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, especially Jared Kushner. He's not your blood. He's not related to you in any way. And I assure you, Jared Kushner will sell you out without blinking if he thought that would save his people, the Jewish people. Yeah. So, I mean, someone put President Trump up to this, taking all the responsibility. Because President Trump is a pretty shrewd guy. I can't imagine him volunteering to take all the blame if something goes wrong. He's like a CEO of Trump Enterprises. And how many CEOs do you know who want to take blame for everything? They blame other people and get them fired if anything goes wrong. So I doubt that President Trump, this idea came from President Trump himself to take the responsibility for potential million people dying, which will happen. President Trump, you need to listen to me because I'm trying to save your election here. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can say, I want all the schools to open. Well, you can say that. But don't take the blame for it. Like, if you don't open, I'm not going to give you money. I mean, then like, you're going to get blamed because they're going to be like, all the governors will be like, 1 million people in our state died because President Trump would not give us money unless we open school. So I had to open school and everybody got infected. I didn't want to open school. You're going to be blamed. All 50 states will blame you. Why would you want to put yourself in that situation? Like the stupidest political move anybody can make. Not just a political move. As a CEO, why would you want to put yourself in a situation where if something goes wrong, you become the target? Why would you want to do that? You know, and it goes against like Republican Party principles, federalism. You know, we don't want federal government, big government. I mean, how many Republicans do you know who wants federal government to get in your face? I mean, you're gonna lose votes just because you're like trying to muscle small states. Republicans will vote against you based on principle because they want smaller government, they don't want big government. So if you go on TV sounding like you want to use the federal government to force states to do something, there are Republicans who will vote against you on principle because they don't want big government. So somebody in Team Trump is trying to get you to lose your election intentionally. Trust no one. That's the best way to survive. Um, yeah, I mean, you're trusting the wrong person. I would definitely not trust Ivanka Trump. I mean, you can love her as your daughter, but don't trust her with your election. And obviously, you should never trust Jared Kushner because if he's not getting the Jewish votes for you, how could you trust him? I'm just speaking it from an honest perspective. If Jared Kushner was instrumental in getting, let's say, 50% of the Jews to vote for you, then you could probably trust him because he's proven himself to be loyal to you. Not only, but how has he proven his loyalty to you? His marriage to Ivanka doesn't prove that he's loyal to you. There are a lot of son-in-law who wants their father-in-law destroyed because they want the pleasure of seeing the father-in-law destroyed so that they become more important in the eyes of their wife. Right? It's like he's competing for Ivanka's affections. Daddy's little girl. I mean, can you imagine the stress that Jared Kushner feels because your grade, who's heard of Jared Kushner until you put him in the White House? So he's like a nobody. So, he may be filled with jealousy, so he would want you to be destroyed so that he drags you down to his level, right? I wouldn't trust Jared Kushner because somebody's giving you bad advice. I mean, unless you've gone like senile, which I don't think you have, I don't think it's your idea to try to make America federal government as a big government, because that goes against everything that Republicans stand for. Republicans don't want big government; they want state rights. So yeah, you're doing it all wrong right now. I mean, this Juneteenth celebration, somebody's trying to get you to lose all your white votes with this federalism. Somebody's trying to get you to lose all your supporters and all your allies in the Tea Party, because Tea Party they don't want federal government, and Tea Party is an important bloc. They helped you get elected, so they're trying to separate you from all your important allies. If you don't see that, it's probably because you've been blinded by people around you who's feeding you wrong advice. Yeah, I feel bad for you, President Trump, because you're making a lot of errors right now. And I think it's because you're listening to Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Always, always deflect, deflect, deflect. Don't stick your neck out to be chopped, because you'll be chopped. Deflect. There are 50 governors. Let them bear the blame for any debt that happens in their state. Don't go out there and say, you have to open the school. If you don't, I'm not going to give you money. Then you're like being coercive dictator. I mean, who gave you that idea? It's probably like Jared Kushner. It's like he's trying to manipulate you to make you look like a dictator. You don't want to look like a dictator, I assure you. In anything you do, you don't want to look like a dictator because dictators get killed. So obviously, you can say whatever you want. You could say, I want this, I want that. Nobody's going to like uh, blame you for that. But if you say, if you don't do this, we, the federal government, is going to do that. You don't want to. I mean, geez, that. I mean, there are issues which people care about that where you want the federal government, like people want federal government to enforce drug laws. People want federal government to enforce immigration laws. Those people want. But people don't want federal government to get in your face about every little detail, like education, healthcare. They don't want that. And if you start doing that, then you look like a dictator. You look like a federalist. You don't want to look like a federalist because you're going to alienate every single Tea Party member on principle. They'll vote against you because you are muscling federal government against state rights. You're not going to win. Majority of the Tea Party members that way. You're not. You're going to lose over 50% of them. And that's the road you're headed. You should listen to me. I've told you from the very beginning, don't take the blame. Don't muscle your way using the federal government. Look like you have your own ideas, but make sure the blame goes to the governors for whatever happens to their state. How many times did I tell you that? You gotta listen to Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district. Because I want to bring America back to God, and you kind of shown that you come close. I mean, you're still like liberal in my book, but you come close to my position, more so than like others like Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. So you're closer to the Christian America vision that I have. So I want you to do well. I mean, geez, it's like like our interests are aligning. So when your interests align, that's the person you could trust. You can't trust Jared Kushner because his interest is completely different from your interest. I will assure you, he'd rather you lose if it means Jewish people getting more power. I mean, you know him better than me. Tell me I'm wrong. But it's like that with any race, right? I mean, anybody who's kind of put their greater fidelity with their ethnic group, you have to calculate that into the equation when you are assessing whether you could trust them or not. I'm just giving you some practical advice here. I'm not trying to be mean to Jared Kushner. I just want you to win this election as long as you're anti-LGBTQ+. Obviously, I will vote against you if you're pro-LGBTQ+ rights. Yeah, as I've said it, I'm not going to lie to you. I love Jesus more than you. Definitely. And Jesus is God who gave us Romans chapter 1, which is anti-LGBTQ. So I'm with Jesus. Jesus said, you're either with us or against us. I'm not going to be against Jesus. That's why if Jesus, who is God, who gave us anti-LGBTQ+ document, that's called the Bible, I'm going to be with Jesus because Jesus himself said in the Gospels, either you're with us or against us. You're either for me or against me. I'm going to be for Jesus. I'm going to stand with him on the LGBTQ+ position. If you want to stand against Jesus, hey, you can go to hell on your own time. I'm not going to go to hell with you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I made that clear from the beginning, President Trump. If you support LGBTQ, I stand against you. I stand with Jesus. So I'm not going to lie about it. You know where I stand. The whole world knows where I stand because the whole world watches this show. But obviously, as I said, as long as you support illegalizing LGBTQ and stand against LGBTQ, I want you to win in November. So, yeah, so I'm trying to help you here. You gotta listen to wisdom. They say Queen Elizabeth was able to reign long and peacefully because her top advisor was a Puritan, like ultra religious guy who wanted to bring England back to God. And we tend to be brilliant. So because she had this Puritan advisor, she had a long reign, without any danger, and the country grew to be the most powerful empire in the world. Yeah. Um, yeah. So anyhow, you gotta learn to take advice from the people with whom uh, visions align. Like my vision is for Christian America, so I will try to empower everyone who wants Christian America. You know, um, but obviously, uh, I'm thinking about starting my own party because Republican Party is kind of, I feel like it's compromised. So I'm predicting that at least 50% of the people in the Republican Party will leave the Republican Party and join my party. And then I would say about 50% of the people from Democratic Party will leave the Democratic Party to join my party. And my party will become the dominant party. I mean, I still have to pray to the Lord and see where Jesus wants me to go. But there are so many Democrats who are who has some ideas for but they don't want to support gay marriage. They don't want to support abortion, but they're kind of in the Democratic Party. So I'm just gonna provide a way for them to transition into my party, and they'll come to my party. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's like a long-term plan. I mean, if Jesus wants me to create this party, I will. If he doesn't, then I won't. But we'll see. But I'm pretty excited about this party idea. I think my party will become the most powerful party in America in a very short time. So I'm very excited. Hopefully, Marco Rubio will kind of reflect and become more conservative and join my party. Same with Ted Cruz. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't be the president because I wasn't born in America. You know, so once I form my party, I would want somebody who wants a Christian America to become president, right? This is after your second term, President Trump. So it doesn't really involve you necessarily in terms of presidential election in the future, but but yeah. So yeah, it's an idea. But yeah, let's look at today's numbers. We have 134,777 cases of death, and in terms of confirmed cases of the living, 3,245,925. Top five in America of COVID cases is New York is 401,029. Deaths are at 32,343. And the winter will see, I would say, up to a million New Yorkers died. So that number is nothing right now. It was like that in Spanish flu too. Not many people died in the first wave. Second wave is when most people died. So and in 2 years, over 50 million people died in the world. California is second with 318,761 cases. Their death rate is 2%, but that's not, you can't really trust that because majority of their cases were in the second wave. And it just happened in the past couple of weeks. 10,000 cases per day. In 10 days, you have 100,000 cases. So the death hasn't really started yet. It takes time for your condition to get bad enough. Unless you develop SIRS, then you die in 30 minutes. Yeah. So 7,027 deaths. Florida is similar situation. Like, most of their cases are from like last couple of weeks. 254,511 cases. The death rate is at 2%, but you can't trust that. As I said, just recent cases, sudden shockingly high cases, the deaths are coming. So it's 4,197 that are coming. Texas is, can you imagine if millions of people die? I wouldn't be surprised if like people kill like Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump Jr., Tiffany Trump. Because if you have like millions of people dead, they're going to be out for blood. Yeah, I would recommend if you have millions of deaths as a result of opening up schools and President Trump took all the blame, I recommend to Eric Trump, Tiffany Trump, Donald Trump Jr. to leave the country immediately, to go to like Switzerland or to put yourself in safety because millionaires will be hiring hitmen to kill you. if like their wife and their children died. I mean, multiple millionaires. And those who are not millionaires will try to kill you, you know? So yeah, we're talking about millions of lives here. This is why you don't want to take responsibility, because they're gonna be out for your blood if their children die, their wife died. As a result of even people who are saying open up right now will want you dead once their children die. People will turn on you. If you I'm a historian. I saw what happened in history, and I know what can happen in history. There are certain things you don't do. You don't volunteer to be the scapegoat for millions of people dying. You just don't do that because it will ensure your death. I mean, President Trump's own bodyguards can kill him. If the millions of people die, you can't even trust a single Secret Serviceman at that point because you volunteered to take all the blame. You will not be safe from anybody. You will be declared a national security threat by the FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, NSA, U.S. Marshals. They may execute you for national security, President Trump. If you volunteer to take the blame for millions of people who are going to die from opening schools, don't do it. You think that this can happen? I'll assure you it can happen. Because I've seen in history it happening. Bodyguards killing the leader that they've been serving like God. What I would recommend President Trump read, or you're a busy man, so watch a movie, Macbeth. Let me tell you the story of Macbeth. Macbeth is the right-hand man of the king of Scotland. They just came back from a war to kill a traitor who challenged this king's throne. And Macbeth was the right-hand man who made this victory possible. So this king in Scotland, and President Trump, you're from Scotland, right? You may have connections to Macbeth. You should to ancestry.com to find out. And the king trusts his general who delivered the victory, so he sleeps in his castle, right? As I said, trust no one, President Trump, because I know history. I know what happened in history. As I said, Julius Caesar was stabbed to death by his best friend, Brutus. He could have told Julius Caesar, his best friend, oh, you know, senators are plotting to kill you in the Senate. Don't come today. Did he do that? No. He actually held the dagger and stabbed Julius Caesar himself. Yeah. These things happen in history, in reality. These things happen. So Lady Macbeth, you know, encourages her husband to kill the king and become the king himself. And he does it. And the king is sleeping in his own bed, in his house, and he kills him there. And you know the story. This is a cautionary tale for all presidents and all kings. You cannot trust anyone. Especially in a national crisis. Like Macbeth, obviously they just ended a war, and nation is unstable in times like that, and anybody can become a traitor to you personally. You don't want to be trusting people in national emergencies. You just don't. I'm a historian. I give you an expert advice as a historian, because the greatest leaders who've met their tragic end because they trusted people during national emergencies that they should not have trusted. And generally, the people who betray them are their closest friends. Yeah. Trust no one. This is a national emergency. You saw defund police, right? You saw the riots, right? I'm sure there are people in the Republican Party who want you dead. I mean, literally. I wouldn't trust anybody at this point. Obviously, they're, you know, I would not trust anyone right now. I mean, you think like we're out of the woods? Oh my gosh. No, we're just beginning to get into the woods. We're just, nothing has changed right now. We're in unstable situation as we were since Memorial Day. I would argue this is more unstable now. Just because people are not protesting doesn't mean we're safer now. They started the process. It's not even halfway there. You will see what I mean. You'll see what's coming in the next few months. Um, I'm a historian, and I study cause and effect. And I'm always shocked when I study history, but the idiocy of brilliant leaders like Julius Caesar. And they get killed, and until the moment they're stabbed to death by like their best friend, Brutus, they don't know why that's happening. Because they've chosen not to see what is so obvious. And since I care about you, President Trump, I'm going to tell you in this show what you need to see. Because obviously you're not seeing it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't be one of these leaders who end up having a tragic end. Because that happens a lot in history. And it's the saddest thing. I'm a historian. I like you, President Trump, so I'm trying to save your life. Literally, and save, geez, what do you think is going to happen when like 3 million Americans die in like 2-3 months? What do you think is going to happen? You're not safe anywhere. You're not safe in the White House. You're not safe from Secret Service agents who are protecting you. You're not safe. Do you want to put yourself in that situation where you're not safe? Where even your lowliest enemies can get a posse together to have a coup d'etat? Is that what you want? You have to be smart, President Trump. Don't take blame for anything. Delegate responsibility. You're a CEO. You know what that is? Have the 50 governors take the blame for whatever is going to happen in the future, then you're safe. You choose to take the blame, you're going to be a target. And when you have millions of Americans dead and you have volunteered to be the target, do you know the concept of accountability? What do you think the accountability will be for 3 million Americans dying? It hasn't happened yet, so you can't see it. What do you think is going to happen if 3 million people die in 2-3 months from COVID? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to you? What do you think is going to happen to your children? What do you think is going to happen to your empire? What do you think? Your legacy will be wiped out in a day or a week. All your progeny. You will see violence in this country, likes of which you've never seen in history. Partly because you've chosen to take the blame. Yeah, don't do it, President Trump. America currently is so unstable. Anything can happen. But if you choose to be the scapegoat for future deaths of Americans, I assure you, you will be scapegoated. You and all your progeny will meet a very untimely end at the hand of an angry mob. You've seen how angry mob gets, right? And their children hasn't died. Imagine an angry mob whose children have died. How do you think that's going to look? George Floyd protest will look like picnic in the park compared to the mob violence that's coming in a few months, if you choose to take the blame. You need better advisors, President Trump, because the current advisors you have really suck. And my guess is maybe they're brilliant. They want you dead. They want you to lose the election. So they've devised a way for you to be the scapegoat for all the tragedy that is coming. That's my theory. Because science is not going to be wrong. Many people are going to die. My prediction is millions will die if all the schools open. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And you just volunteer to be a scapegoat. I mean, I would say backtrack and then put the blame on all the governors. Tell them, do what you want. And then work through Betsy DeVos. Let her hang, if someone needs to hang for like education field. You don't have to volunteer. I mean, that's what Secretary of State is for. I mean, why do you have all these secretaries if you're going to hang for everything that happens in their realm? Like, do you want to hang for what happens in the housing? Do you want to hang for what happens in labor? You want to hang for everything that happens in Treasury Department? You want to hang for everything that happens in the Agriculture Department? You want to hang for everything that happens in education? I mean, geez, for God's sake, why do you have Secretary of Education, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Agriculture, if you want to hang for everything that happens, goes wrong in these rounds? The point of having a secretary is, one, to delegate authority, but also to take the blame if anything goes wrong in agriculture. You have like Secretary Perdue you could blame, or you shouldn't blame, but other people can blame. It's like a buffer against you, and you're like cutting away the buffers because some conniving traitor in Team Trump wants to make you into a scapegoat. I mean, it's a brilliant move when you think about it. They're like making you into a puppet. And then what Americans see is like you volunteering to take accountability for anything that happens in the future as a result of what happens. And they're going to remember when things go wrong, and you will go wrong. You need to kind of slip back into your CEO mode. Yeah. Delegate. Don't take the blame because we're not just talking about your freedom because you could possibly go to jail for that. We're actually talking about your life here and lives of all your children who may be killed by mob violence. If there's millions of people die and if they blame you for it, you won't be safe for anybody who has last name Trump from mob violence. Have you seen what mob violence can get in George Floyd to protest? And it's not anybody's child who died, really. I mean, somebody's child, but George Floyd is a perfect stranger. And that kind of mob violence can happen with one perfect stranger. Imagine millions of people dead. What do you think is going to happen? You think the mob will be sitting at home just crying? Is that what people do when they lose like their loved one? I need to point out cause and effect. Do not volunteer to be a scapegoat. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I'm trying to help you here. I've said this a couple months ago. Don't volunteer. Just let the governors do whatever they do. Let them take all the blame. Let them take the praises. In a situation like COVID-19, it's a lose-lose situation. No governor is going to win. Well, if you're going to be a scapegoat, then governors will win because they all point to you to blame you. So you should go on record saying every governor can do whatever they want with their state. I'm here just to monitor that they don't break federal laws. But during an emergency, I'm going to give them some leeway. You got to come off looking like a Democratic leader, who's like supporting the governors. You got to do some image thing, not, for your survival, because thousands of people or millions of people will die. They will be looking for people to blame. Somebody's setting you up right now. Your empire will be gone. your progeny will be gone. Angry mob will target you and your family. This can happen within 6 months. Don't take the blame. Don't put yourself into that situation where you get blamed for what's going to happen in the winter. Because it's out of your control. I mean, you don't control the virus, God does. Well, it's not in your control. Why do you want to take the blame for it? Let the 50 governors take the blame. In the field of education, let Betsy DeVos talk. Let her say, I'm going to cut funding to states that don't open up. Let Betsy DeVos say that. Why do you have to stick your neck out? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't think you should do that, but I mean, if anybody should stick their neck out, it should be the secretary, head of that division. I mean, don't stick your neck out to be chopped by the guillotine. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, remember, people are very, very, very sensitive about life and death. So you don't want to be messing around in that realm. No, you don't want to be messing around in that realm. I mean, yeah. So that's my advice. I mean, obviously you could take it or leave it. But I hope you take it because I don't want you to die or lose this election. If you're against LGBTQ, I want you to win. Can you imagine all the LGBTQ who want you dead for your executive order banning transgender in the military? I bet every LGBTQ, even Grinnell, is sharpening his knife. I bet during the short period that Grinnell was there in national intelligence, he probably put a ball in motion to have a coup d'etat, or yeah, I'm sure maybe Grinnell's behind this. Yeah, I'm sure people are sharpening their knife for the LGBTQ people. Yeah, you got to be careful, President Trump. We're in a national crisis now, so I want to help you here, but yeah, there's only so much I can do from here. Yeah, but I'm gonna, give you advice because I want you to live. I want you to thrive. I want to bring America back to God. I see you as a partner. I win in November. You win in November. We could bring America back to God together. So, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah. But anyhow, yeah. 300 million people are Christians in America. And you can't forget that. I mean, for God's sake, people voted for you because you say, you'll be able to say Christmas again. Merry Christmas again. That just tell you something about America. Everybody's anti-Semitic in America. I mean, that you should assume that. Yeah. Blacks are anti-Semitic, whites are anti-Semitic, all the Asians are anti-Semitic, Hispanics are anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitism unites America because all the Christians, 300 million Christians, I mean, they all hate Jews. There's different levels of hatred, but this is America. Welcome to Christian America. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you will be able to say Merry Christmas again. Vote for Heerak Christian Kid. You can say Merry Christmas again in Arlington. Yeah. In Alexandria, Falls Church of Fairfax County. Yeah. So Florida, you had 254,511 and 4,197 deaths. It's going to sharply go up, as I said. Texas, look how low it is. 1% of the people are dying. That's because most of their cases were in a couple weeks, right? They had over 10,000 today. So Texas has 254,396 cases, 3,138 deaths. That's going to sharply rise in the next few weeks. New Jersey, old school, had 174,959 cases. The death is at 15,525, 9%. Yeah. Deaths are coming. Unfortunately, deaths are coming. Now, as you know, I am a clinical nurse leader in the making. I'm taking my certification exam next week. And I'm graduating in August. So you may be asking yourself, what is a clinical nurse leader, right? Some of you may be asked, some of you are considering applying to Georgetown because of me. Because I'm on this show, uh, blowing the horn about how great Georgetown University clinical nurse leader program is. So I know some of you with bachelor's degree are now planning to apply to Georgetown clinical nurse leader program in the fall. Like I think deadline is like November 1st. Go visit Georgetown University School of Nursing and Health Studies website to find out. But you should have a flood of application this fall. Dr. Dilma Yearwood is the current director. And oh yeah, she's also the chairman of the Department of Nursing Practice. So yeah, so I think this title is a higher title. I want to give her due credit. So Dr. Yearwood should be very happy that we're gonna have like hundreds of applications for the clinical nurse program in the fall. Yeah, so yeah, I would encourage you to apply. I mean, as I said, it's a great program. You have a bachelor's, it doesn't matter which field, history, English, art, fine art, music, you know, it could be the sciences, humanities, whichever field, education, and you can apply. You just need to take some prerequisite classes. Some of you might have had from college, so you don't have to take them. Yeah, I would encourage you to apply because in 2 years it's intensive. You become a clinical nurse leader. You could do a lot of important things to help the healthcare system. You know, yeah, I would say to do something meaningful with your life. Apply to the clinical nurse leader program if you just graduated from a bachelor's program, or if you're about to graduate from a bachelor's program in year 2021. Yeah, apply. It's a good thing. And it's a Catholic school, so obviously you have to understand that Georgetown University is a Catholic university, which holds to the Catholic mission and value system. It's a Jesuit university, and the official position of Catholic Church, as you know, Georgetown University is a Catholic university, so official position of Georgetown University is against gay marriage, against abortion, and so you need to understand that. So if you have a problem with abortion, pro-life position or anti-gay marriage position, then maybe you should apply to another school. University of Alabama, well, they're probably anti-gay marriage and abortion as well. But there are some schools you could find. But yeah, I mean, you know, Georgetown University is a Catholic university. It has a Catholic mission, Catholic vision, Catholic value system, and the smartest Catholics, not only from America, but the smartest Catholics from around the world come to Georgetown because it's a Catholic university with Catholic value system, and obviously central to that is opposition to gay marriage, opposition to abortion. So you have to accept that Catholic value system if you come to Georgetown, So you do need to recognize that Georgetown University is a Catholic university, and you gotta respect that. But if you're not willing to respect that, if you're not willing to respect Christian value system, then you shouldn't come to Georgetown, I would argue. Because it is a Catholic university. You cannot come to Georgetown and not respect Catholic value system. Whether you agree with it or not, you gotta respect it. So yeah, don't come to Georgetown if you can't respect it. It's not good for you. It's not good for Georgetown. It's not good for the Catholic Church. So as you see today, over 8,000 people died in 24 hours in Texas. Over 10,000 people died in. Over 10,000 people died in Texas. Over 8,000 people died in California, and over 11,000 people died in Florida. So like 30,000. Again, these three states. So at 5% death rate, that's like 1,500 will die just from these three states, from one day's confirmed cases. That's coming in the fall, in a few weeks. Now, so what can we do as CNLs? CNL, clinical nurse leader. So I want to just kind of introduce it. We'll talk more about it maybe another time. A clinical nurse leader, CNL, improves patient care by focusing on leadership So we are basically what we call horizontal leaders, meaning we are nurses who are leaders of nurses, but we integrate care with other teams like the respiratory therapists, pulmonary therapists, occupational therapists, because these are disciplines that are different within healthcare. We coordinate also with social workers. We, Georgetown University is a Catholic university. So we integrate care with Catholic priests, um, Jesuit priests. We integrate care also with family members. So we play the leadership role of this horizontal leadership. We create a collaborative team of different disciplines. And that's what we are trained to do in our program at Georgetown University. And the professor who trains us in leadership specifically is Professor Elizabeth Schloss, who's a brilliant professor. She did her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing at Georgetown, the Master's of Science in Nursing, I believe, at George Mason University. And then she did an MBA, Master's of Business Administration at Georgetown. Thereby, she's a specialist in leadership. And she's still working on her PhD, her doctorate at Virginia Commonwealth University. So she's brilliant. So she teaches on leadership, focuses on leadership. And she's been preparing us for CNL exam as well. So my success is your success, Professor Schloss. So so she's helping us prepare all of us, CNL 2020, 25 of us, to pass and do well on the clinical nurse leader certification exam, national certification exam. So so leadership and patient outcomes, meaning how well patients turn out. So obviously we have to focus on making sure patients turn out well. And at Georgetown University, what we prioritize is cura personalis, which means taking care of the whole person. That's called cura personalis. And so we integrate Catholic value system, Jesuit value system, because Catholic tradition is beautiful. Jesuit values are beautiful, and I love Jesuit values. I love Catholic Church values, and so I'm glad to integrate that from a spiritual angle, and also healthcare, mental health, physical health, all kinds of things, integrate in order to help the patient. And care environment, how can we make the environment better? And that's why I'm kind of talking to you about adjusting our environment, like our ventilation system, HVAC, to prevent spread of COVID through our ventilation system, right? Like heating system, centralized heating system. So like we care about the environment. We want to adjust the environment for maximum health outcome. You see how I'm thinking like a CNL, and I'm kind of giving you advice like a CNL, because that's what I was trained as. That's what I'm being trained as at Georgetown University. So you see that I'm a product of my training at Georgetown. Management, so we manage nurses, obviously, and other members of the healthcare team. And role functions of the CNL include advocate. We advocate for you. If you want something, let's say you are an evangelical Christian, and you want to, have a prayer meeting on Wednesday night with your church elder, we can advocate for you, and to make that happen in the hospital, for example, because that's important to you, it's important to us. And then team manager, managing our team, interdisciplinary team, made up of nurses, pulmonary respiratory therapists, you have physical therapists, occupational therapists, social workers, priests, Jesuit priests, whatever, we coordinate that. Information manager. So clinical nurse leaders are distinctive nurses in that we are supposed to be um, update on knowledge, information that is needed to help the patient survive. And so in a sense, this program, I am being an information manager of sorts, right? So I was trained as a clinical nurse leader, and this program is trying to provide information to you that's latest to help you survive. So I am, in a sense, engaging in nursing informatics, right? And Professor Megan McHugh should be happy. She said she's going to write me a recommendation. So um, I'm very, she's really nice. She taught us nursing informatics, and I think she's the head of nursing informatics at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. So she's like a very important informatics expert, nationally. Um, so Professor Megan McHugh, I think she's head of informatics at MedStar Georgetown. She should be proud of me that I'm doing utilizing my nursing informatics to help you survive COVID. And also system analyst, risk analyst. So I'm analyzing the system and the risk, right, that you face, your family faces, Arlington faces. If Arlington opens up a public school, what kind of risk Arlington County faces, and I'm predicting that up to 50% of Arlington County can die from COVID. So that's a type of a risk assessment. Or I'm analyzing the system. You see, so, I'm acting in my training, soon to be certified clinical nurse leader nationally. And once you're certified, you are de jure expert, by law an expert. So, I'm a de facto expert now because I've had the training for 2 years. So I function as an expert, but I will have a paper document, saying that I'm an expert, once I pass this exam. And so, anticipator, meaning what can happen to you if Arlington County Public Schools open up. At least one person in your family will die. And, I'm anticipating that. So I'm an anticipator, as clinical nurse leader, clinician, and once if I end up working for Virginia Hospital Center, if you're so lucky for me to be working at Virginia Hospital Center, then I'll be like clinician, meaning I'll be like taking care of you. If you have COVID-19 and you come to the emergency room, you might just live because I'm there. And outcomes manager, so we make sure the outcome is going to be positive. So I'm trying to produce a positive outcome in Arlington to reduce the death rate. And that's why I'm encouraging to write to school board members. I'm advocating for you, and I want you to advocate for yourself because I'm a nurse advocate, so that schools will close in Arlington. So the risk of your children's infection and your infection will go significantly down. You see, I'm anticipating the threat of COVID for you and your family and the potential for you to die. So that will be the negative outcome. So I'm trying to manage the outcome so you don't die. I'm an educator, and that's what I'm doing now, right? Every time you watch this show, I am being a nurse educator, right? I'm CNL educator. That's the role I'm taking. As I said, I'm a functional expert because I've been trained in it for 2 years. Once I have my certificate after the exam, I'm a de jure by law and a certified expert, So I'm giving you education on how you can prevent certain things. Yeah. So, who knows? Maybe I'll be called on by Congress once I have my official certification to give my professional expert advice as a CNL on this issue. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I want to go to Congress as a U.S. congressman. So vote for me on November 3rd, 2020, because it's better for you to have me in Congress because this COVID-19 is forever. You need like an expert there to kind of pass laws to streamline the process to save American lives, right? And also, I need to talk to President Trump because whoever is talking to him is giving him really bad advice. Worst of which is like making him into a scapegoat, and that is not good for him and his family. Especially like, Don Trump Jr. can become president in the future if he stays away from drugs, alcohol, booze, and drugs, alcohol, loose women, and drugs. He can be president. Same with Eric Trump. He could be president in the future. Like George W. Bush. Yeah, you don't want to jeopardize things for your sons, your children there. Yeah. So yeah. So you're lucky that you're blessed by God that I'm here with this show, acting as a clinical nurse leader, providing all these services functionally. I mean, I'm not certified yet. I take my test and I'll be certified, but functionally, I have the expertise. And so, because I've been trained for 2 years, that's what makes you an expert, right? Yeah. So one of the processes that we use to improve healthcare outcome is we use the system Plan, Do, Study, Act, PDSA. And that's the process that I actually use for this program. Yeah. And so you're very blessed that I am here as Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, bringing in in a sense, I'm coordinating all the expertise that I myself have to deliver you a holistic team Heerak nursing care or healthcare information that you need for you and your children to survive COVID-19, right? So you're very blessed in that regard. As you know, I'm a national leader. I am running for U.S. Congress for Virginia's 8th District. This show is watched by many people around the world. And so, yeah, I'm here to help you and save your life and your children's lives. So you're very lucky from the vantage point. And if you come to Virginia Hospital Center, if I end up working there, I'll be using my stethoscope to listen to your heart and lung. So yeah, yeah. So you can see me like using my stethoscope to listen to your heart, listen to your lung, to see if your lung sounds are clear or if there's some kind of a fluid sound. Yeah, so yeah, so I have the interview with Virginia Hospital Center this week, so I'm pretty excited, so they're interested in me. Obviously, I'm very good. I have 3.49 GPA in my clinical nurse leader program. And, I'm one of the top people in my program. I'm very strong in physical assessment skills. I'm very good at it. I've caught nurses making mistakes as my clinical nurse leader, as my clinical instructors know. So yeah, so whichever hospital that gets me is very blessed. Yeah, I'm amazingly good at what I do. I'm like one of the best clinical nurse leader cohort members in my program. Obviously, I have 3.49 GPA, which is an A- GPA. I'm very good at what I do. And so whichever hospital gets me will be very blessed and lucky. For Virginia Hospital Center is lucky because it's really close to my home, So so they have that going for them. Yeah, and I like the people who are there. Yeah, I met the leaders in one of the recruiting events. They had a shindig, and people were really nice. I had to leave early because I had a campaigning event um, that day, so I had to leave like 30 minutes early or 40 minutes early, unfortunately. But yeah, because I'm campaigning to be U.S. Congressman, so I had a campaigning event, so I had to go to that. To campaign. Yeah. So yeah, Harry's looking at me with interest. He's like, "Oh, future U.S. Congressman, expert in healthcare, who will save America in the COVID-19 era." Yeah, I love all of you. I want to save all of you. That's why I'm running for U.S. Congress. So you should vote for me for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. Yeah. So yeah, so I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I march for your life. I march for the life of your children. And that's why I'm marching toward U.S. Congress. I'm running for U.S. Congress for Virginia's 8th District, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. So I'm marching for your life, your family's life, your children's life to save you from COVID. So vote for me on November 3rd, 2020, because you need me in Congress, to save you. Because, they're not doing it right now, unfortunately. So we need to do it right. So send me to Congress, help me so that I could help you, right? So thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you stopped by and got all this important information that you need. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope that you'll be well and that your family will be well too. Bye. See you tomorrow.